Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today we're going to be talking about the brand new patch for Battlefield 4. This is the big one, the one we've been waiting for a long time. Lots of really cool new fixes and new features. The first of which is a new flight model for helicopters. This allows helicopters to now do barrel rolls and flips, as most of them can in real life. This gives you new agility options. You can do some pretty cool getaway maneuvers from incoming jets, but it also gives you slightly more agility when you're in close quarters. If you want to do some sort of cool banking maneuver, turn around on an opponent real quick, you can absolutely do that. This comes in handy in close quarter fighting, where you're more susceptible to RPG and small shots. You can now do some very, very tight turns, kind of jukes your opponent. Some people who don't ever fly helicopters might look at this and say, oh great, now helicopters are going to be even more powerful, but I have to say it's just a much more satisfying feeling as a pilot, and it's a little bit more liberating. Now, one of the highlights of this patch is soldier collision. Previously, we were having trouble going up certain flights of stairs without having to jump over a few of the steps. Curbs, little rocks, stuff like that would kind of trip up your soldier, hold them up. That should be fixed in this patch. I was testing it out. I didn't have any collision issues. So this is nice. I can't call it a feature because, I mean, it's something that was in the game to begin with. They kind of broke it, and now it's unbroken again. Vehicles have also gotten a collision update, and I was testing them out a bit. I can't say for certain if they're handling better, but they certainly felt like they're handling well. And if you're driving around in a Jeep, make sure you don't do any jumps directly on top of an IED. Not going to end so well. Now, should you join a server for the first time and not tweak any of your settings, you might notice some interesting little color coding stuff going on when you're shooting enemy soldiers. You'll see here when I take out an enemy, there's a little color coded hit marker I get. It's slightly orange as opposed to the white colored hit marker when I get a kill. So you'll see as I move into the building here, watch the hit markers I'm getting, and I get a slightly orangish color for that kill. You can actually go into the settings and customize what color the hit marker gives you when you kill a soldier now. So this is a cool new feature, and you can also customize a color of the hit marker if you want it to tell you when you get a headshot. Now, I went in and customized it so that my headshots were kind of a pinkish color, and then my kills were a bright red color. You might also notice from this footage here that my hipfire crosshairs are now a different color. I made them pink. Kind of ugly, I know, but it's also very easy to see. Debating whether or not to keep them pink or if I should shift them back to white just for aesthetic reasons. It is very easy for me to see this color though in pretty much all environments. You'll also notice that I turned my red dot sight into a pink dot sight. You can again do this in the settings that have been added since this patch, and the reason behind me doing this is basically because you can lose a red dot sight in a big red fiery explosion, or there's a lot of red signs and stuff like that. Makes it easier to lose the red dot sight. I'm not saying the red dot sight's not a good sight, it's just I think the pink dot is slightly more effective. You can also customize the size of the dot, so if you thought dots before were a little bit too large, you can shrink them down ever so slightly. You can also apply these same color settings to your vehicle heads-up display, and I've set my tanks and helicopters to a nice bright neon green. Now, some of the really big features that this patch includes are a 30 Hz tick rate bubble. Now, that might sound like a pretty scientific term. It's not too complicated. It's basically how many times the game gets updated information every second. So if you're playing at a 30 Hz tick rate, that means you're getting 30 bits of new information every second from the server. However, if you're trying to get that much information from everything going on in the entire server all at once, it's going to be a lot of information. People with slower internet connections are not going to be able to handle it, and it's also going to be a lot more processing power. So what DICE have done is they've made basically a 180-degree little bubble in front of you that goes out to a certain distance that has a high tick rate environment. So everything within that space in front of you and to either side is going to update very quickly. Now, when you aim down sights, it kind of turns that bubble into more of a cone looking out further in front of you. And if you're in a vehicle, it'll even do that further if you're using some of the high zoom optics and stuff like that. So basically, the design of this is so that everything you're looking at and you see should be updating at a high frequency, and everything that you're not looking at and don't see will not be updating at as high of a frequency. Now, all that might seem a little overly technical, but it's probably one of the most important updates that came around in this patch. All the other settings are very cool, but in terms of actual gameplay and consistency and just what you're seeing on screen matching up with what's happening, it's probably one of the most important updates that the game's seen in quite some time. Now, we also got a new game mode with this patch. It's called Squad Obliteration. It's designed for 5 versus 5 competitive play, which is a really cool idea. It launched with basically no server lock settings on it, so I'm playing in a server that has 64 players as an option. It actually played out okay with about 20 to 30 players. It was pretty fun. I haven't tried it in a 5v5 game mode yet, but I can see how this game mode would be a lot of fun. In fact, I'd probably like to see sort of a more casual, maybe 10v10 game mode pop up in servers from time to time. Now, soldier animations have also been tweaked. A while ago, they updated the soldier movement, made their acceleration basically faster, so rather than slowly ramping up to your full speed, it was pretty much instantaneous, but this kind of conflicted with some of the soldier animations and made things seem a little bit jerky. I made a video on it a while back. Looks like DICE has went ahead and updated the soldier animations, and I'll put them side by side so you can see what the old animations look like compared to the new animations. Now on the left you'll see the new patch, on the right you'll see the old patch, and I think it's pretty clear to see that the old patch has got way more jerkiness in the soldier animation compared to the new patch, so a pretty darn big improvement on all fronts. Now personally, I like the idea of slower soldier animation, creating more realistic fluid movements, easier to track, and also makes firefights less reliant on quick side strafing left and right. Now there's also a new feature that doesn't allow you to spawn on squad mates in combat. You'll see on the minimap in the lower left it says in combat. I cannot spawn on my squad mates right now, and this basically prevents me from spawning into instant death situations, and it also prevents soldiers who are already engaged in combat not having to shoot at soldiers that are just constantly multiplying right in front of their eyes. We also have louder soldier footsteps, which actually really comes in handy in some of the smaller game modes, especially something like, say, squad obliteration. You're really not going to be able to take advantage of it in, say, 64 players lockers, but in other game modes that are more infantry centric and lower on the player counts, it's really noticeable. First aid kits and med packs have also been rebalanced so that they'll basically start healing you a lot quicker after you've been suppressed, so the assault class can now move around faster and re-engage much quicker. Now, although the patch is an overall improvement, it's not without some new bugs, and this one that I'm about to show you here is something that I know a lot of people have already experienced. I'm going to die and it's going to instantaneously say accept revive to deploy, yet I won't be able to, and on top of that, nobody actually revived me in the first place. The only way I found to get around this bug is to literally quit the game and rejoin the server. Pretty darn aggravating. Also, there's a number of people that I'm playing with that are now starting to crash a lot with their Battlefield 4 clients, and they didn't used to get crashes, so I'm sure there's some weird crash bugs implemented in the new patch. Now, the patch also added in a bunch of weapon mastery dog tags that were previously missing on certain guns. Now, I had already gotten 500 kills with some of these weapons, and the dog tags have not unlocked. They're just grayed out in my battle log screen. So perhaps there's an easy fix, but if I have to do anything like get 500 more kills with each weapon, then I'm going to be pretty darn aggravated by that. The patch has also added in bullet tracers to pretty much all weapons now, so when you're shooting at somebody, you're going to get this little bullet tracer effect. It does look kind of cool, but I find it extremely distracting, and it makes it hard for me to zero in on my shots. So I'm not really a big fan of this. I wish there was an option to turn this off. Now, for whatever reason, the UCAV has not been touched in this patch. The UCAV has been one of the most annoying, overpowered, and just game-breaking attachments in the game for quite some time. Everybody thought it was going to get nerfed. It's just extremely aggravating on all fronts, and yet nothing was done to it this patch. I mean, DICE has been working on this patch for a long time. I don't know how the UCAV update didn't get into this patch, but I assume it's coming at some point. The fact that it's not here now means that we could be stuck playing with a broken UCAV for another, what, 3, 4, 5 months maybe? Now, despite some of these new bugs, overall the patch is a massive, massive improvement. Player combat just feels slicker in general. I love the UI customization options. There's just so many of them. You could really spend hours going through all the color combinations that you like. And this video really only scratches the surface of the new stuff in the patch. There's a lot of hidden patch stuff going on that's not even available in the patch notes. But there is also a new matchmaking system, I think, that's going to be particularly cool on consoles. Anyway, this is definitely one of the more substantial patches we've seen in Battlefield 4. It's taken quite a while, but better late than never. If you haven't tried it out yet, go download it, check it out. It's a lot of fun. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.